everyone, and welcome to Surviving UX. This is the place for you to braid and style all those gray hairs that being a UX designer has blessed you with. I'm your host, Jessamyn Edwards, and I'm extremely pleased to welcome back my dear co-host, Meg Kramer from maternity leave. Meg, welcome back, and I'm sure you've been having so much fun on your vacation.
Funny you should use that word.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast before, but I did have somebody use that word before I went on leave, which I like to call my medical and paternity leave, or sorry, medical and parental leave. It's definitely not a vacation.
Right.
And certainly, as I am learning, the kind of these arbitrary amounts of time that we give people to like heal or bond with their baby is just like, oh my gosh, it's nuts. It's an absolute joke.
It's not even close to being enough time, and the fact that it's like measured in weeks is like the first signal that something is wrong. Where people think that you're going to have a baby and then you're just going to football pass it over to some caretaker and then get right back to work is such a joke. But that being said, that's what a lot of people do, and it's extremely effed up. I think, like, having gone through it myself, I mean, to be honest, like, returning to work was the hardest thing I've ever had to do after having children. And it was a career low for me. It took months to really kind of stabilize again and get used to the separation and all that. I think, God, I don't think there's enough appreciation for, like, hey, I've hauled myself into the office, or I've hauled myself back in front of this laptop and here I am, like, what now? What do you need? And, like, meanwhile, the baby's crying in the background, or you need to nurse or whatever. And it's the worst feeling when you can't respond to your baby's cries because you are busy,
Yeah. And I appreciate you being so honest about this kind of stuff, because it is kind of like, I don't think people really talk about it, or like, when people do go back to work, they say, oh, how are you? How's the baby? Like, and it's just kind of like, there's no one else. They don't want to hear all this crap you're going through.
They do not want to hear. They don't.
No, they just want you. They want you back, and they want you well. I don't know. I presume that's how it's going to be. And there's a little part of me that also does want to, like, go back and feel a little bit normal and adult, and like my brain still works. I think that there are multiple sides of it, but I do really appreciate you being, like, super real about, like, the struggle of it. And I know that it is, I mean, literally sitting down to record this podcast with you was a major feat in and of itself, to be a room away from where my child is, and to be able to, like, say, okay, I'm not going to respond for for the next 40 minutes. So yeah. Ooh, little baby steps, though. Baby steps. Yes. First podcast, then eventually going back to work, I guess. Yes. At some point.
So intense. Well, congratulations on everything, and I just am sending you a lot of good vibes, and I really truly hope that, like, you get to that point where you're super comfortable making demands of everyone around you to get the support that you need. Because I think for me, that was the weirdest thing. Like, I always felt like I was so independent. I could take care of myself. I didn't need anybody's help. I was so determined to, like, show the world that, like, I got this covered, and I don't think I really, I don't know why I didn't respect that. It actually takes a lot of strength to ask for help. And it's a lot of times it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do for yourself and your kid, to lean on your support network and, like, get the help, whether that's somebody being like, hey, I need a glass of water, and I don't want to get up right now and get that water. I want you to go get it because you have 2 legs and they're walking around right now. So go to the sink, please, and get the water, bring it over here to me. Like I like just something like that, or even like I don't know, like just how, somebody, a parent or whatever, watching the child for me. Like I don't know. I felt like that was like really difficult thing for me to ask. Now I'm like, here, let me throw this child into your arms and like I'm gonna go do something. But I think before I wasn't as keen on that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
I will say that like one of the things that is just striking me as so so daunting is like I am a new parent and never had a kid before, and so I'm doing a bunch of things. It's like learning a lot about children, infants, newborns, parenting, working with your spouse, your partner to be able to like parent well. Okay, so like I get that that's all like part of it, but then when you are returning to work at some point, you also all of a sudden have to become like an expert in finding and arranging childcare. And I just find I find
Mm,
that piece of it like so daunting.
yeah.
But it's absolutely, it's absolutely necessary if I do want to go back to work. And this brings me to like, why don't work why don't workplaces just have daycares? Like, come on.
Hmm.
Like, what how much easier would my life be if my work just had a daycare? And I feel like there's
Right.
like very few companies. I want to say like Intel maybe like 10, 20 years ago had daycares. I feel
Hmm.
like that was the case. Like I also want to say like Mattel or places that are kind of like a lot
Mm,
more I could be totally wrong, but
yeah.
they're child oriented in their in their mission. And then the other one I've heard of is like Patagonia. And it's just like, why are they
Nice.
so rare? Why are they so
Rare.
rare?
Yes. It's
Like
really
can't you
rare.
just give me daycare? Like come on.
Right. Right. No, it's so true. I think, and also, I mean, now that everyone's remote or a lot of people are remote, uh, it's probably even harder. But like when everyone was office based, it's like
Hmm.
there's really no excuse. Like the square footage for daycare centers is so low
Hmm.
because, people have daycares in their homes. And I
Yeah.
remember going to a daycare and, it was down the street from us, and it was like a woman's living room. It was like her living room and dining room. And it was like two rooms in her house. She had 8 kids in there, a bunch of toys. And then she had like a bedroom made up where the kids slept. And that was it. And that was like a qualified registered daycare, home daycare. So if you can have a daycare with 3 rooms in a house, you can have a daycare in a corporate office.
Hmm.
You could have a couple conference rooms or whatever. And
Yeah.
kids don't care. They're happy with grungy carpets and a box of toys and little toilets. It doesn't have to be lattes and
Yeah. No, it doesn't. And also, like, I mean, I don't know the ins and out of daycares, but like daycares are for profit. Like,
Mhm.
it's not as if, I mean, it's probably a huge liability, right? It's probably part of it. But like you could make money off of this. And there are people
Right.
certainly
People are
that
willing to
have,
pay
yeah, yeah,
a
just take it
lot.
out of my paycheck. Just don't even
Hmm.
let me see it.
Yeah,
Um,
and it is your paycheck.
oh,
That's the truth. I mean, I remember talking to a coworker who was like, "Look, my paycheck goes to childcare, and my husband's paycheck pays for our life, but
mhm,
tuition for pre-K and daycare and things like that. I mean, it's like college tuition. It's in the thousands,
yeah.
and yeah, so it's definitely, I think, something to think about. And like maybe this will be something employers will, I don't know, like you can get a credit though. There is like a credit, I think it's called dependent care
Hmm.
credit that you can qualify for, that you can put toward childcare stuff. So that's out there. And I think stuff like that is really nice, especially when you have kids under 5 who, they don't qualify for public school yet. So you have to pay out of pocket if they're going to go somewhere like a daycare center or whatever. You have to have a private nanny. And I mean, that stuff gets super expensive. And yeah.
Yeah.
So I think upping that, from whatever it is to 10 times more is probably, the
Yeah.
way to go.
Yeah.
Or it's like it's a perk. You could think of it as a perk, like, hey, I, as an employer, I'm going to give you a job offer and there's going to be a line item in here for, X number of dollars for daycare or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
So yeah.
in the same vein of us having so much time on our hands to become childcare experts or any any other thing that we need outside of our jobs. One topic I have for us today is around getting hit up for work outside of your work. So like
Hmm.
we are professional UX professionals, and if anybody out there in your like social network actually knows what that is, and appreciates what you do and the value you bring, sometimes you can get hit up for stuff outside of your day job. And one of the things that I was reflecting on is, when do I feel like I say, of course I would do that. Like I would do that, like, yes, I'll take a look at your website, or I'll do this
Hmm.
thing for you. Almost always for free, right? We're not talking about anybody paying me to do this stuff. And then
Yeah.
when do I have like this just ultimate, like, not ultimate, but like this immediate, like, reaction of like, you can't ask that of me. I get paid
Hmm.
to do that. You cannot possibly ask that of me.
Hmm.
And I don't think there's any really rhyme or reason about when I say yes versus when I have that like knee jerk reaction of I don't know, maybe I'm too good for this. I don't know. So
Mm.
anyway, I thought I'd ask you, Jessamyn, your thoughts. When have you chosen to do kind of quote unquote pro bono work, or when
Hmm.
people hit you up for stuff, for UX stuff?
Yes. So I did freelance early on in my career where I would, take on sort of odd graphic design jobs and build websites and do logos and things like that for people. And I really learned the hard way that it was a lot of work for not a lot of pay. And you would really have to hunt people down. But I kind of, once I was able to go in-house, I stopped doing that stuff altogether because I was like, it's too time consuming, not only the
Hmm.
design, but the back and forth. And so
Hmm.
now I really avoid those types of projects unless I really want to help somebody out. And it's very, very rare. So like currently, I think I have maybe 3 websites going for friends and family, our contractor. And this is somebody who has like literally worked their butt off for our family, you know, doing all these renovations on our home, and who does not have the technical ability to do this themselves. Where for me, it's like nothing to do a
Hmm.
quick WordPress site. And it was sort of fun. So, because they're not going to be like, oh, can you, put it over here and do it like this. I mean, I was able to just like literally type up whatever I wanted, put it on there, and it was like, oh, that looks good. Okay, great. The only thing I would say that like eats up time was like plugins and stuff like that, where WordPress really makes you feel like an idiot and you have to like install a plugin, try it, and then uninstall it, and then try another one, and then uninstall that and try another one until you can find like the perfect plugin. But I definitely like I honestly like the person I was helping was like, how much can I pay? And I was like, please don't. Because if I started having to keep track of the time that I'm spending and be like, okay, every time I log in, I have to set a timer and keep track. Like I don't even
Hmm.
want to do that. So I was like, I'll just do it for free. And then I'll do it when I want to. That way they can't be like, hey, I paid you $75. Where's my changes? So I was like, I'm actually like feel better about doing this for free than I would if I charged somebody.
That's
Um,
interesting. Yeah,
yeah.
I feel like I've gotten uh I was thinking back on like times when I have done stuff like that, and like I was like, ooh, there was one time when I felt like just like, ugh, I really should not have said yes to this. And it was a time that somebody was paying me. And
Hmm.
maybe that's a piece of it. Because the other stuff just kind of comes out of like, I don't know, your altruism, or like
Right.
for me, I have done stuff like that in situations where I feel, yeah, like I feel like they wouldn't have the means, another way to like get
Right.
this outcome.
Exactly. I do feel like it is like a superpower because like for example, when I first became a mom, I joined like La Leche League. And
Mhm.
I was, all these women who were in Low Luxury League with me, they were just like, hey, I am not tech savvy. Like, can you help us? And I was like, yeah, I can help, because you sort of know that like you get to be in charge, you get to call the shots because you have the most experience.
Mm.
And it's not going to be somebody like hunting you down, being like, oh, change this, change this. And I feel like those types of projects, I'm like, sure, let's do it. Because I know I can control the scope and I'm not going to spend more time on it than I really want to.
Mhm.
But, like I said, like freelance work where it's like, oh, I want a logo. It's like, no, nope. You can find those people on Upwork or whatever. You can pay them the $25 or whatever you think their a logo is worth.
Mhm.
Otherwise, like, no. So the answer is no. I cannot help.
I think that you are right. It is the times when I can have full control, and the consequences are pretty low. It's funny because you were talking about how you've done some things for like family, and I actually think that that is someplace where I have like said yes, but the experience hasn't been as not rewarding, but uh, I don't know. I feel like I tried to do a logo once for a family thing, and I feel like it's still in progress. Like I feel like I never really finished it because I feel like I want, like I feel like it's something that I should do really well, and if I do it
Yeah.
crappy, then it's not, it's not my best work. So it's probably somewhere in there. It's probably somewhere of like not needing to have a lot of scrutiny over the project, but having a ton of control, and then also um, probably not taking any money for it. So that's
Right.
probably the happy medium. All right. Well, that was my topic. Did you have one for today as well?
So my topic is around this idea of like kind of going rogue on your team and starting like stirring up trouble, basically, in terms of like, hey, there's something wrong here. There's something like maybe there's a usability issue, or, kind of summoning up the strength to like, work on it, or the time to work on it, even when nobody else cares. And
Mm.
so have you ever been in that situation?
Well, first of all, let me ask for clarification. When you say team, do you mean like your design organization and like the people that are similar, like have similar professions to you in terms of UX design, or do you mean like the engineering team that you provide, mock-ups and work for?
I guess it doesn't matter. It's more about like the group of people who would be the ones to solve it with you. Like,
Okay.
you know, so probably the technical side of the house.
Yeah, it kind of sounded like a little bit more like the technical side of things. Well, I have been in some cases very fortunate that I feel like the some of the engineers I've worked with have been easy to rally around around some of those things. But there certainly have been cases where that's not been true. And also, I think the other thing is like your proximity to the engineer. So,
Hmm.
if you work really closely with them, even, obviously right now we're not like sitting next to each other, but in past experiences, I've sat, back to back with the engineer I work with, or side by side with them, and they're, even if we didn't have that physical proximity, we would still, we've built up a relationship over the years where we can reach out and talk about these things. Um, but in other cases, you're not you're not in a position to build a relationship with the engineer. Maybe the project is really short lived, or the team, you're just, you're hopping on a team for a short period of time. That, that's all the project really allows for. Or your manager is saying, oh, you need to spend 20% of time on this, but the rest of your time you need to spend doing something else. You can't really build up those relationships. You can't have the ability to convince, so you can't have the ability to like build up that relationship to like be able to convince people that what you're looking at is important, or should also have more people around it. So I think, I think that is a detriment to, and can lead to kind of going in this rogue, in this rogue state. But I guess my thinking is like, in if you go rogue, if you do it, is it really worth your time? Because you still kind of, I mean, it's not as if we are the ones that are going to be like pushing this stuff to production. We still need buy-in, we still need engineers,
Mhm.
creating the solution. So I think it's a give and take of like, when is it really worth your time? And it can be worth your time if it's meaningful, or if there's a I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, but like, if you see something and you create a solution and you have that solution in your back pocket, then
Mhm.
somebody who says, this is terrible, or this is crappy, or how did this go out, then you can kind of like save yourself. And you can say like, oh well, we had a
Yes.
different idea.
We
So
had, yeah, we had something
yeah.
else, but we just never. So this is the thing where it's like, how much do you try to protect that relationship? So like maybe you're the only one who feels like, hey, this really could be better. And I
Hmm.
think we should push for something better. Versus like, okay, I guess nobody else feels this way. I'll just kind of go along to get along and kind of keep the peace. And whereas like
Hmm.
sticking your neck out is like, making everyone else be like, oh my God, can't we just finish this and move on? So, but is it the right thing to do? I mean, that's the thing I think I am wrestling with, is how much do I become like a bee in everybody's bonnet about, hey, like this is kind of crappy. Like we've gotten negative
Hmm.
feedback and let's try to fix it, please. Here's some fixes we can take a look at. But people are they just don't have the appetite for it, I guess. And I think like there is sort of this idea of like, I'm gonna pay a price. If I
Hmm.
stick my neck out, I say this isn't good enough, like I'm gonna pay a price for that, even if it's the right thing to do as the designer.
Hmm.
Or am I not?
This.
Am I building
Yeah.
am I building what's the word? Like, not collateral, but like
I
credibility. Yeah.
Credibility, yeah. It reminds me sort of, I don't know if you've ever been in HR training, or like new hire training, like the sexual harassment part of it, where some companies now, the rule is, you can ask somebody in your team or whatever, somebody or somebody you work with out, like, romantically, you can like broach them. I promise I'm getting somewhere with this.
I'm like, where's
You
this
can,
conversation
yeah,
going? But I'm
you
I'm on
can
for, I'm along for the ride.
you can ask them, but you can only ask them once. And if the person says no, that's it. You can never ask them, like, you can never ask them, again.
Oh,
There's a term,
okay.
for this. It's like only ask once or something.
Oh my
Anyway,
gosh.
so it's like a way for companies to be like, yeah, like, we understand that, like, you spend a lot of time here and you get romantically involved with one of your coworkers, but here's the rule, like, you can't become one of those things, it can't overstep.
Like you're just
Anyway,
pestering everybody. Yeah.
yeah. So what you were talking in a totally different sense, obviously not in the like romantic engagement sense, but like in the sense of like trying to walk that line of like, should I be the annoying one to like keep pushing on this? Maybe maybe that rule applies here.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like, you only pitch once to each person, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
but if there's a new person, pitch it to them. Or if maybe,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe, if there's a new set of circumstances, pitch it to them. I also have seen people go higher up and like be kind of not sneaky, but maybe crafty
Ooh,
in like
yes.
meetings, and be like maybe basically bring up an idea that I've seen they've got shot down before, but in a different, with a different audience, and
Now I'm going
with
to ask
people.
you in front of your boss. Let's see how you think about it now.
Right, right,
I
yes,
feel
that
like
kind of a
that's
thing.
dirty. That's dirty business, and that's
uh
really risky. I don't know if I would have the guts to do that, because I've seen people do that and then get really like, people just like, what the hell?
yeah.
You just threw me under the bus there. You've already asked me and I've said no, and now you're gonna,
Hmm.
you know, uh, what's the
The
word,
main
like
thing that we
hang me
need
out
to
to dry.
do, yeah, the main thing we need to do is we need to like use some sort of like inception techniques where we get other people to think that the idea was originally theirs
Was
in the first
theirs.
place. Yeah.
Just say it out loud in a meeting and watch somebody else down the table pick it up. Oh, anyway, yeah, that's not a bad idea, Meg.
Well, we should move on to our
Okay.
listener question here.
Yes.
Um, so would you like to read it for us?
Sure. Okay. So our listener question is this. Okay. I am a UX designer with a chronic mental illness. I frequently need to take breaks during the workday and even days off because of fatigue and depression. I am passionate about UX work, but I've dealt with these issues for years and they're not going away. How much should I share with my boss and coworkers about my mental health? All
Hmm.
right, Meg, what do you think
Yeah.
about this scenario?
Well, I wish that mental health issues or experiences were as simple and maybe it's, it's too generous to say they're simple, but we're as on par with the kinds of other types of things that we make accommodations for. So if you had, for example, carpal tunnel syndrome or something that affected your wrists and you were working on a computer all day, you are going to need to take breaks. You are going to need to have accommodations. You're gonna need to tell your boss that these are things that you need and these are things that you can't get by without. And I think people, with those kinds of conditions still do meet, still do have these kinds of like um, questions and concerns and about disclosure and whether or not they'll be looked at the same way. Even though absolutely it should never, that should never happen. I'm sure it does. And I'm sure that people hesitate to disclose. That's why there are so many hidden disabilities, because people don't want to disclose to other folks, for fear of not being able to be seen the same way. So, but with mental health issues, I do think they have a certain stigma attached to them that makes them perhaps harder to disclose, and makes you worry a little bit about how people will see you. I think it is awesome when a person uh basically gives zero f's about it and
Mhm.
is like, here's what I need, here's who I am, and like here's the value I bring to the team, and I need these accommodations that are within reason, and there shouldn't be any real discussion about that, or maybe
Mhm.
there's a discussion about how to get them, but there's not a discussion about whether or not it's a legitimate ask.
Yeah.
So and perhaps younger people, just generally are more, I don't know, maybe things are changing. I would hope that they are changing, on this particular topic, and people do feel more able to kind of declare, what they need without feeling like
Mhm.
they're going to be in a situation, that's negative for them, or detracting
Right.
from from their experience.
It totally boils down to like how much psychological safety do you feel on your team and with your boss? Because
Hmm.
if you don't feel safe, if your team is really cutthroat or toxic or competitive, and there isn't sort of this sense of like caring and sharing, and hey, so and so has to leave early because they have to pick up their kid, or hey, I'm working from home today because whatever, if that's not your team's vibe, I mean, I would say protect yourself, because you don't want to put that stigma out there and give everybody a reason to be like, oh, that person doesn't deserve a promotion, or that person can't take on this project. I mean, I wouldn't disclose. And I think that it's nobody's business, you know, but that's the thing. If your team has a culture where people are more open, like, hey, I lost a family member, I need to grieve, or hey, I have a health issue right now, I need to take time off for my health issue. Like, and the team's like, great, good luck with your health issue, take care, we're here for you, wonderful, care and share away. But I don't think that's the case for everybody, and I think that I feel like we would be remiss if we were like, yeah, just disclose it, let everybody know, hey, I have depression, and I'm going to be, basically taking some personal time, because I feel like it's really, really subjective, and the danger of like stigma and bias are very real. It's a
Hmm.
very real consequence for somebody. So
Yeah.
I definitely feel like, obviously take the time if you need
Yeah.
to, and but you don't even have to disclose it to like your boss or HR. You could just say, I have a health issue, whatever that
That's
is.
true.
That's up to, you don't have to say it's mental health or whatever, because clearly if you're having physical symptoms, then it's just a health issue. Bottom line, doesn't really matter if what's this like the source of it. So,
And I
it,
do think
yeah,
there's also, I think you make a good point, and there's also something that I would add is that there is a difference between your boss and your coworkers too.
coworkers, yeah,
You can also in a confidential, situation, get support that you need, and that other person that you're talking to, probably your manager, absolutely should not be sharing that information with other people. That is
yeah,
absolutely not for them to do. And so you can also walk that line of like, I need some people to know, and and their job should be to hold that information in confidence for
right.
you.
Very much so. I think I've had coworkers who have taken medical leaves for, health issues like cancer or things like that. And they were very forthcoming, like, hey, everybody, I have cancer, and I'm going to be out, or I'm actually leaving, or whatever it is. And they felt safe enough to do that. But I've also been on teams where, you know, I I wouldn't want to share something like that, or I wouldn't want that up for debate and scrutiny. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's perfectly normal, like perfectly fine if you feel you like don't want to share it. You don't have to if you don't feel safe, and just, I would even venture to say you don't owe anybody an explanation. Like, I remember my dad telling me like years ago, he was a pilot and he was in a union, and he's like, if I need to take a sick day, I simply call into the scheduler and I tell them I'm taking a sick day, and that is the end of discussion. I do not have to tell them what kind of symptoms I'm having or explain, what's going on. There's no need for me to elaborate. And I think that when I was younger, I always felt that need that I had to explain how sick I was or what my symptoms were in
Hmm.
order to like justify that I wasn't going to be able to come in. But I think that people don't actually want to know those details. They don't want to know that you're having diarrhea or whatever it is, and it's better to just be like, out of office. Like, nobody really cares. I don't think people care that much about what's going on with you to want to know
Hmm.
why you're out. It's just that you're either out or you're in, and that's it.
Yep. I think that's a great place to end. You're either out or you're in. And in the in these crazy times of still COVID and adjusting to all of our new workplaces, I do hope that our listeners are getting all of the support that they need while either they are in at the office or either they're out of the office getting some rest. Um, but it was great to be back, Jessamyn, and it was great to chat with you again on
Yes,
these topics. And I hope to be back again soon.
agreed. All right. Thank you so much, Meg. Thanks, everybody. And hang in there until next time. Bye bye.
See ya.
Surviving UX is hosted and edited by Jessamyn Edwards and Meg Kramer. Our theme music is, among other things, the on-hold music for Cisco Phone's Opus Number 1 by Tim Carlton and Derek Deal. Thank you for listening, and hang in there until next time.